The asteroid field of Crinthia 7 was no place for the living. Jagged rocks tumbled through the void, grinding against each other in an eternal dance of destruction. The mining station had been abandoned for decades, its corridors dark and silent, its air processors long since failed. No one came here anymore. No one except Liam. He was a salvager, one of the few humans crazy enough to pick through the bones of dead stations for anything worth selling. His ship, the Wanderer's Hope, drifted quietly through the debris field as he suited up for another excursion. The sensors had picked up something unusual, a faint heat signature in Section D of the old station. Probably just a malfunctioning reactor core, but Liam had learned long ago that probably didn't pay the bills. The airlock hissed as he stepped into the station. His helmet lights cut through the darkness, illuminating walls covered in frost and neglect. The temperature readings were all wrong there. Shouldn't be any heat here at all. Liam followed the signature deeper into the station, past collapsed doorways and shattered windows that opened onto the pitiless void. Then he heard it, a sound that shouldn't exist in this graveyard of metal and ice. Crying. Human crying something else. Something that resonated in frequencies that made his bones ache and his heart clench. Liam quickened his pace, his boots clanging against the corroded floor plates. The sound grew louder, more desperate, echoing through the empty corridors like a prayer no one would answer. He found the source in what had once been a cargo bay. Huddled in the corner, partially buried under a collapsed support beam, was a creature no larger than a house cat. Its scales were silver white, dulled by dust and debris. Membranous wings, torn and crumpled, lay folded against its trembling body, and its eyes covered by a milky white film stared at nothing. A dragon hatchling, blind, abandoned, and dying. Liam had seen dragons before, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had. They were the apex species of the Varanthus Empire, proud and ancient, wielding technology and psychic powers that made them effectively gods among the stars. They didn't need humans. They barely acknowledged humans existed, and they certainly didn't abandon their young and derelict mining stations. The hatchling's cries intensified as Liam approached. Its small head turned toward him, nostrils flaring as it tried to sense what was coming. Liam could see the fear in every trembling scale, the exhaustion in the way its chest heaved with each breath. How long had it been here? Days, weeks? "Hey there, little one," Liam whispered, though his voice could only carry through his helmet radio. He knew the hatchling couldn't understand him. Dragon speech was far more complex than simple words, but tone mattered. Tone always mattered. He slowly extended his gloved hand. The hatchling recoiled, letting out a pitiful hiss. Its tiny claws scraped against the metal floor as it tried to back away. But the debris had it trapped. Liam could see the desperation in its movements, the certain knowledge that it was about to die, that whatever approached meant the end. But Liam didn't pull back. He kept his hand extended, steady and patient, letting the hatchling sense his presence. Slowly, carefully, he activated the external speakers on his suit and began to hum a lullaby his mother had sung to him when he was small, before the colonies, before the wars, before he'd learned that the universe was cold and uncaring. The hatchling's cries softened. Its blind eyes continued to stare at nothing, but its head tilted, confusion replacing fear. No predator would make such sounds. No danger hummed lullabies in the dark. Minutes passed. Liam's arm began to ache, but he didn't move. He just kept humming, kept his hand extended, kept offering something the hatchling had probably never known: patience without expectation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the hatchling moved. It crept forward on unsteady legs, its nose twitching as it sniffed the air. When it reached Liam's glove, it pressed its snout against the reinforced material and let out a small, broken sound. Not a cry this time, but something softer, something like relief. Liam's throat tightened. "Yeah," he whispered, "I've got you. You're not alone anymore." Extracting the hatchling took hours. The debris had to be moved carefully to avoid crushing the fragile creature. Liam worked with the precision of a surgeon, using his suit's enhanced strength to lift beams that would have been impossible for an unaugmented human. All the while, he kept talking, kept humming, kept reminding the hatchling that someone was there. When he finally pulled it free, the hatchling weighed almost nothing in his arms. He could feel its heart racing against his chest plate, could see the way its wings twitched reflexively even though flight was impossible in its condition. Liam cradled it carefully and began the long walk back to his ship. The Wanderer's Hope wasn't designed for passengers, especially not alien ones, but Liam made do. He fashioned a nest from emergency blankets in the cargo hold, set up heating lamps, and raided his food supplies for anything that might be suitable. Dragons were omnivorous. He remembered they could eat almost anything. He started with synthesized proteins and water. The hatchling ate ravenously, its blind eyes never leaving the direction of Liam's voice. Between mouthfuls, it made small chirping sounds, a far cry from the majestic roars adult dragons were known for, but no less meaningful. As his ship pulled away from the dying station, Liam sat beside the makeshift nest and watched the hatchling settle into sleep for the first time in who knew how long. Its breathing had evened out, and the constant trembling had finally stopped. He knew this would complicate everything. The Varanthus Empire didn't take kindly to humans interfering with their kind, even abandoned hatchlings. There would be questions, accusations, possibly even legal action. Liam's simple life of salvage and survival was about to become infinitely more complex, but as he looked at the sleeping dragon, this tiny, blind, forgotten creature that had cried alone in the dark until a human had held out his hand, Liam found he didn't care about the complications. "We'll figure it out together," he promised quietly. That's what humans do. In the cargo hold of a battered salvage ship, surrounded by the infinite cold of space, a bond formed that would echo through the galaxy, a reminder that compassion needed no translation, and that sometimes the strongest connections were forged not between empires and species, but between two souls who refused to let each other face the darkness alone. The hatchling stirred in its sleep, and for the first time since Liam had found it, something almost like a smile seemed to cross its small face. Humanity had always been good at one thing above all others: caring for those the universe had forgotten. And in that moment, hurtling through the stars with a blind dragon hatchling curled trustingly beside him, Liam understood that this simple act of reaching out a hand in the dark was what made them truly worthy of the galaxy they called home.